I want to thank all of you employees for coming out today here for the brown bag lunch presentation. I recommended this presentation to the site because as public employees we sometimes see animals coming into the building with the humans, and we kind of sometimes question, is that correct? What are the rules and regs on that? Well, I hope this presentation will enlighten everybody a little bit more on that. In some places this is acceptable. In other places, it is not acceptable, and so hopefully we can mention and distinguish between the two. Our guest speaker today is Laurie Carlson. She's a member of the staff of the Can Do Canines, which is located on 169 in, is it New Hope?
Yep.
New Hope. I met Laurie through the St. Louis Park Lions Club, as I love dogs, but I couldn't have any, and eventually became the Lions district liaison for the Can Do Canines. Many Lions helped them move from their old facility in Minneapolis to this old warehouse, and believe me, it was an old warehouse. Through a lot of elbow grease and many volunteers, we were able to transform this old manufacturing plant into a beautiful facility where they train. It has an office and has a kennel. And since then, through many donations and fund drives, they've almost doubled the size of it too. So they're also looking for a lot of volunteers to help train the animals before they actually train them specific for duties of the facility, or for the Can Do Canine. If you have a chance of to visit this facility, I would highly suggest you and/or bring your families and friends. They do wonderful work training these assistance dogs. Laurie has been with the CDC for about 14.5 years and is currently the volunteer coordinator for them. She started out volunteering, and through her volunteering, she was the hearing dog coordinator. She handled the accounting, and she was also the event coordinator for many, many fundraisers. She trains her dogs herself, and some dogs, and is here today to share her experience with Can Do Canines. And her dog's name, Gilbert. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Manny. As you said, I'm Laurie Carlson. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Can Do Canines, and I borrowed Gilbert from the kennel today because the corgi I'm raising is going through a teenage phase. So we question authority, so he's much more fun. So Gilbert actually is going down tomorrow to Rochester to meet his client and get placed. He's going to be a diabetes assist dog. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our organization and how we started, the types of dogs that we train. Basically, we've been around 24 years. Next year is our 25th anniversary. We started by training hearing assist dogs to help people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And really, you're a talker? Okay. And basically, hearing assist dogs are from shelters or rescues. They're usually small to medium-sized dogs, but basically they have to be really interested in sounds. So they're the dogs, Gilbert, that know within a half-mile radius of your home what's going on. Those are the dogs that make really good hearing dogs. It's not that they would bark, it's that we train them to touch the person and lead them back to the source of the sound. So if someone's at the door, if the smoke alarm goes off, oven timer, microwave, name call, telephone, all those things, but most importantly the smoke alarm. They alert them and lead them and let them know that a sound is happening. We also do we call it an intruder noise, but it's really weird noises that you're not sure where they're coming from, but you think they need to know about it. So for instance, we had one client that their washing machine was overflowing, and the dog was alerting her, and she's like, what? And led her to the stairs, and oh, the washer. So weird noises, scratching, and that kind of thing. We teach them to alert to strange noises as well. We then began training mobility assist dogs, and mobility assist dogs help people with physical disabilities. Now this could be someone that is still mobile and still walking, but has balance issues like Parkinson's or MS or things like that, so that if they dropped an item and bent to pick it up, they would still fall because their balance is affected. So we pair them with what we call walker dogs. Basically, it's a taller, bigger dog, bigger than Gilbert. They have a harness very similar to guide dog harnesses, and they hold onto it, and the dog will pace themselves as fast as they walk. So they'll provide that support and balance for that client, and then also retrieve dropped items, open doors, hit lights, all those things. It can be that, or it can be someone who's using a wheelchair. So it really depends with mobility assist on the client and what they need. It can be dragging a laundry basket across, or a bag across the floor, pulling clothes out of a front loader, which they really love. picking up items, getting an emergency phone, a cordless phone in case they fall. Could be bracing if they need to transfer from their wheelchair to the car or to a bed. They would use the dog to brace and move. So it has to be a bigger dog that can withstand weight. So they can do that. They can use them to almost drag them. They put their arm around, I won't make Gilbert stand up, but drag them to like the nearest phone or something. Go get help, someone else is in the house. There's just a wide variety of things that mobility assist dogs can do. So when we meet with a client like that, we'll talk with them about what they think they might need, and usually there's more things that they haven't even thought of that help them conserve energy, help them be able to do more things so they're not exhausted at the end of the day. Hitting lights, opening doors, tugging open drawers, all types of those things. We train diabetes assist dogs for people with type 1 diabetes who suffer from what's called hypoglycemia unawareness. They don't feel their symptoms anymore. They've had type 1 for so long, which is low blood sugar dives, that they can be talking to you and within 5 minutes not know their name. They'll go into seizures, they'll go into coma. It's severe and very fast and very frightening. Even with an insulin pump, sometimes they're faster than there's a delay on the insulin pump. They'll go down faster and the insulin won't even alert them fast enough for that. So basically the dogs are trained to smell that. Everyone has the same scent for low blood sugar. It's a universal scent. So whether you're exercising, your blood sugar goes low, or you have type 1 diabetes, it's the same smell. So when we're training these dogs, we're training them, this is the scent. We have clients when they're low, they'll breathe into gauze pads. We freeze those, and then the trainers make a game. They hide on their clothes and find it, and that type of thing. So we make it a game and really fun. So that's what Gilbert's going to do. And so they can tell from a 2-story house, they can tell from across a building or a big room like this. So they will alert their person and persist with them until they check their blood sugar. If they're not responding, they'll go to someone else in the house. They're trained to go get a glucose tablet, container, juice box, those types of things that the client will need. This is more of a type of a invisible disability. If you were seeing this person, they're out walking and whatever, but when they start having an insulin reaction, they're acting intoxicated, drugged, out of it. There were a lot of misunderstandings. Obviously with a dog and a vest, people seem to know that there's a reason, but it's been very hard for these people. They don't want to leave the house. They don't, especially seizure response dogs as well. The clients, I won't steal Terry's thunder, I'm going to play that in a minute, but she was in an explosion and had seizures. And before she got Brody, she didn't leave the house because she had no aura, no idea when a seizure was going to happen. And so she just didn't want to be caught alone out in public. So with our seizure assist dogs, it's not seizure response, which is the stories you hear about the dog who knew an hour ahead of time or 10 minutes ahead of time and alerted the person, because we don't need, he's like, I'm going to take a nap now because she's just talking. With seizure assist dogs, what they know is going to happen, it could be electrical, it could be a smell, it could be body language that differs from one seizure person to another, seizure disorder to another. So we don't know what it is. So if you don't know what it is that they're picking up on, you can't train it. So we are more on the response end. Basically, they'll lick their face to bring the person out of the seizure faster. They'll go get an emergency phone. They'll go get help if someone else is in the house. They'll carry medication, identification, things like that in their packs. Terry, which is not in the story, you'll see in a minute, when she first got Brody, she had a seizure, and when she woke up, not only were all his toys packed around her, but the phone was sitting on her chest. And so he brought her the phone, and then that didn't wake her up, so then he started tucking his toys all around her, and so he just kept bringing her things and licking her until she woke up again. So as they learned that process. So it was kind of an interesting story. Anyways, we also train autism assist dogs to help children with autism. Usually the ages between 3 and 9 is the application phase. Right now we're at a 3-year wait with autism assist. So with a 9-year-old, they'll get placed by 11, and that's about as old as we'll do. These are kids that usually bolt. They see something and they just go after it. So they're a high flight risk. So basically what these dogs do is they're tethered to the child. The parent also has a leash. It's not a lassie thing. But if the child bolts, as soon as the dog feels tension on the leash, they'll down or sit long enough for the parent to get control of the situation again. With these kids too, when they're out in public and that sensory overload, especially in malls and things, just all that coming in is usually when they have meltdowns. It's just too much stimulation going on. So touch is a really big thing with these kids, and if they can pet the dog, they can calm themselves down, and the parents, are reporting, we don't have to drive 2 cars to a restaurant. We can go on major trips, and this is not an issue because they have this calming influence of the dog with them. Also helps with social interaction. These kids, especially if they're younger and are just, they might not be talking to strangers at all, and here's somebody coming up to them saying, oh, what a pretty dog, what's your dog's name? And helping them interact with people. And why not start that when they're much younger than wait till they're older? So they've really been a huge, huge impact on these kids. We talk about the moms usually being more on board than the guy isn't first, because when they're 5, and they have a meltdown, you just pick them up and you leave. Well, as they get older, their world gets smaller, because it's one thing to pick up a 5-year-old, it's another when they're 10 or 11 and they're much stronger and they're much bigger to have those meltdowns. So start them earlier and with a dog, and then just they get into their routine and things like that. They have a little harness on there, so the kids learn this routine too. It's like, okay, get your harness, and off they go, and that's their job, is to keep track of the dog, and so it works really, really well. We don't charge for our dogs. There's a $50 application fee, and that's it. While they're in training, we pay for all costs. Once they certify and are finished, then the client takes over financial responsibility of the dog. Last year, we trained 36 teams. Gilbert, thank you. This year, our goal is 38, and it costs us about $25,000 per dog to train. So individual donations are huge with us. The Lions are also very, very important. JCs support us, and some other service organizations as well. We get our dogs from shelters and rescues. We have our own breeding program of Labradors, which Gilbert is a part of that. And we also have dogs donated by breeders. So a wide variety of different sources that we get our dogs from. Hey, Gilbert. Yes. He's like, what? Anyways. So it's kind of neat to see how they turn out and what their talents are. We get, especially with the puppies that are donated, watching them grow up, and then they usually come in for training at about 16 to 18 months, and then they go to college. Our trainer, Laura, who is at the office, she works with them and kind of determines a major. What do they like to do? Where's their niche? With him, he really likes scent. He really likes to do that. He likes retrieving and things like that, so he's going the diabetic route. If they're large and really like kids and just calm as can be, they're going to go autism, that type of thing. So we're kind of watching to see what do they like to do, because obviously we want to play on that. I am going to, yeah, he's just, give me something to do. He's like, give me something to do. Gilbert, do you want to pick up some things? Gilbert, you want to pick some stuff up? He's like, what? Okay. All right. Wait. Gilbert, wait. Okay, go get it. You're going to get that first? Okay. Bring it up. Oh, not both. Bring. Thank you. Go get the bottle. Good boy. And you bring? Thank you. Good job. Good job. So they learn to pick up a whole bunch of different stuff and a lot of different textures. Here, there's your Cheerio. They get payment by Cheerios. It's low fat and they're just the right size. So we work for Cheerios. Gilbert. Okay. They have to work with things like metal and larger things. Okay, can you get the spoon? Bring it up. Bring. Thank you. Good job. Can you get the phone? Go get the phone. Bring it up. Come on. Hence, we start with non-functional phones. Go over here. Yes. With mobility assist dogs, this one's very important. Get your leash. Get your leash. Bring it up. Good boy. Thank you very much. Good boy. So there's a lot of different things. When the puppies are growing up, we kind of go with the assumption that they're going to be mobility assist work, even though they might go in a different direction, because of the 5 types that we train, 3 have a retrieve on them. the mobility, the diabetes, and the seizure response. So we'll just go with the assumption that they like to pick stuff up and encourage that, and then if they go in the other direction, usually it's because they don't like to pick things up, autism or hearing, that they'll go in those directions and it's no big deal. I'm going to play a video because no one can bring this home better than our clients. In the video, there's a whole lot of black labs in there, and we do have other types. It just was when we shot this in the gala, there were a lot of black dogs that were just certifying. So I'm going to have them play this video real quick. It's 5 stories from 5 different types. Oh, he comes whipping around the corner.
3 years ago on Thanksgiving, I had an insulin reaction at 2 o'clock in the morning. I fell out of bed, I had a concussion, I had a seizure and went into AFib. And my doctor visited me at the hospital and said, "I'm not burying another diabetic, you're getting an assist dog." This is Moxie. She is a black lab, and she is a diabetic assist dog. 3 days after I had her home with me, she woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just woke me up. I checked my blood sugar, and it was 70, which isn't bad for me. So I laid back down, tried to go back to sleep. She wouldn't let me fall asleep. Just wouldn't let me fall asleep. And eventually I got back up and checked it again. It was 32. So she knew and told me. For somebody who's not gone through something like that, I can't explain it. To know that security is there, all I can say is thank you. And those 2 words are never, ever going to be enough, ever, to express how much she's changed my life, my family's life.
My assistant's dog is Bally, and she's a beautiful and brilliant black lab. Bally does a wonderful amount of things for me. For the body, she does all the physical things that I need, but more intangible and harder to describe is how they nourish your spirit. It's amazing when you know the investment that they do make in each dog. It makes it even more of a gift that you feel very blessed to have received a dog that so much attention has been given to and so much love even before you get it.
I was involved in an explosion when I was a police officer at work, and I had a brainstem injury. My seizures would go anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes, and my doctor said, "You will die from these if we don't do something more aggressive." Brody is a seizure assist dog. He's a little bit different than the other seizure assist dogs here in that I have a vagus nerve implant in my chest here, and on Brody's collar is a magnet that's the sister to this implant. And what Brody does for me is, once I seize, he crawls across my chest and he does his little snuggle here, and the magnet hits the implant and knocks the seizure out immediately.
Hi, this is Jewel. Jewel is a rescue dog from Kansas, and she's a hearing assistant dog. One of the things is my hearing has gotten worse over the years. That's when I realized I really need someone that will alert me to sounds, and that makes me more secure when I know there's someone there that's listening for me. About 10 years ago, I had a fire in my house. If I was sleeping at the time, who knows what would have happened. But now, if that happens today, Hey, I got her to protect me, right, Joel?
This is Savvy. She's our daughter Megan's autism assistance dog. Megan has autism, Tourette's, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Things were very unsafe in public. There have been times where she's wandered off when we're in a parking lot and there's a car coming. It actually happened recently, and Savvy stopped her from getting in front of that car. It's just amazing. She's had that bond with Megan since the first time we took her out. Before Savvy, Megan used to have some pretty intense meltdowns. There have been times where we've gone out in public and it's happened, and where you would just pray. Somebody would come up and ask you if you need help, and people would. They would actually come up and say, "Can't you control your daughter? What a brat." Just very hurtful comments. And she may have autism, but she can hear it just fine. She's a very huge calming influence on Megan, and it just, as a parent, it makes us feel like we've done something really wonderful for our daughter.
On those stories, the autism team with Savvy, they just went to Disney World last year. Huge for a child that has all those issues, and routine is huge with her, and being in the same bedroom at night every night and everything else, and it went very well. Amazing that they can go on trips now and things like that. With Sarah, the diabetes assist client with Moxie, she's a nurse. She was a nurse. When she started having her really bad episodes, she couldn't work anymore. She couldn't be a nurse, and she had a very young son. She was having very bad lows. Sometimes when you go that low, you get very paranoid. There was an incident, she relates, that she was having a very bad low, was convinced her husband was going to kill her, called the police. They were there. Her 4-year-old sitting in the corner sobbing, can't figure out why this is happening, and she just gets very teary and everybody cries. But just the impact of this, and now that she has Moxie, she's back to work. So, and Moxie is behind the nurse's station, and when she goes low, like they had the door was just ajar a little bit. She was with a patient, and Moxie was just fussing behind the thing, and the nurse said, "Okay, what?" And she goes whoop and right down the hallway, right to, she knew when Sarah was just starting to go low. So she brings her to work and works very, very well. He asked, will the dog alert to other people who are going low? Yes. So it's kind of a spread the joy kind of thing. Sometimes we've had clients where they were in a doctor's office or they were at the dentist, and the dog's fussing and they're checking their blood, and they're like, "I'm fine." Door was ajar across the hallway, and or the doctor was, the dentist happened to be low at one client, and they're like, "Do you happen to be a diabetic?" And it's like, "Yeah, well, you might want to check your blood sugar because you might be going a little low." We had one client that she went to a diabetic convention, and we were like, "So how'd that go?" Whole room full of people with diabetics, and she said it went really well, actually. She said Becca, she kind of concentrated on their table. So she warned her friends, if Becca alerts you, you might want to check your sugar. But it was amazing. Becca kind of reined it in, and it wasn't just complete overload on her, that all these smells were coming, and she really focused, which was really cool. I thought that was very impressive. One thing I forgot to mention is part of our training is we also work with the prison system. We have 2 prison programs. One is in Faribault, which we've had about a 9-year relationship with, and basically that was our shelter dogs that were coming in, obviously aren't at the level that our puppy raised, from 12 weeks are, so they needed some catch up. And instead of sitting in our kennels for 6 months and just drawing it out, they went to prison. So down in Faribault, there was 2 inmates per dog, and they're down there for a couple months, and so they were doing some catch up down there with the obedience and with some of the basic skills and things like that, so they could come up and get placed much, much faster. Win-win situation for us, for Faribault. It's been a great relationship. Yeah. You went down there for a little bit, didn't you? It's gotten to the point where some of the inmates have been there long enough that they learned actually how to do some of the scent detection. They worked with Laura and learned how to do some of that scent detection work so that she could get those dogs out faster. Some of the hearing dog skills as well. So that's been a huge thing for us. We also have a prison puppy program with Waseca, Women's Federal Prison. And with that program, they are raising puppies in prison. Again, 2 inmates per puppy. And because they still need to do the social stuff, the public access and all that, and then also being in a home, the employees at Waseca take the puppies home on weekends. So they learn the house manners and the public skills that they need. So that's been a great program as well. And they're, I think, on their 2nd litter down there. So it's been about 2.5 years. So we've been very busy. We have a wait with as many employees as we have, and the things that we're doing, we're on a very large 3 acres, I believe it is, in New Hope now. We have the space. We have the dogs. We have as much as we can with the employees we have. I still work weekends. We're there all the time. We can do 38 teams. If we had more funding, we could do more. We could do double that. We've got the space. It's just getting the needed employees and things to further it. Right now, we have a 3-year wait with autism, a 2-year wait with the diabetes assist dogs. The rest are a little faster, unless they really need a hypoallergenic dog like a poodle or something, then that might be a longer wait. But the others are shorter. Any questions about the dogs? Yeah?
Well, what about training the
She asked about the training for the person, for the client.
My brother's on a waiting list for diabetes.
Okay. Yep. Once they're accepted, basically they apply. They turn in paperwork with references, medical, all that. Once all the paperwork's in, then the trainers will meet with the client and talk about what their needs are and type of dog they might be looking at. If they're really specific on a breed or something, that might take a little longer, although we have a lot of labs. But if they're going poodle or collie or something like that, it might take a little longer. But they'll talk about that as well. Their living situation and things like that. And then once they're accepted, they get into that line of waiting for a dog. Basically, once they're matched with a dog, they'll meet with them. They'll meet a couple dogs, and the trainers kind of know who they want to match with, and almost always they're right as far as lifestyle and personality and things like that it's a good match. And then once they're in training, they have to complete a minimum of 24 hours. So usually about a month or so of training. Depends on the type. Diabetes might be a little longer, or mobility. Hearing goes a little faster. It depends on the dog and the client and how committed they are to the training process. So usually within a couple months they're certified and are a working team and are official. So, but it's learning how to work together, because at that point the dog knows what they're supposed to do. It's teaching the person what the dog already knows and how to work together, because they're not a machine. You know, then there's a lot of upkeep. You know, they talk about an autism dog and how great that would be for a family, but they need to think, okay, this is one more thing I have to take care of. This is somewhat of a small child, there are things they have to do, exercise, health, all of those things, some downtime for the dog as well, and playtime as well as work. So they have to take that into consideration, and do they have the time for that? And not everybody does. So we have a couple of volunteers that, you know, they use wheelchairs and things, but they just aren't in a position where they really want to have a dog right now. So they're happy to volunteer and do their stuff, and may or may not be ready for one. Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, also the volunteers, do they do that at your facility, or do you mean they take them home and raise them, or what do the volunteers do?
We have volunteers in all kinds of areas, but puppy raising is one of the most important. Very much like the guide dog programs, our puppy raisers will take a dog at 10, 12 weeks old and raise them till they're about 16 to 18 months. During that time, they're teaching them good house manners. They're taking them out in public as much as possible. They have a little vest. They go to Target, stores, restaurants, all that stuff. Getting them used to as many social situations as possible, so that when they come in for training at 16 or 18 months, being out in public is no big deal at that point. They are totally fine with going on light rail, all those things, experience while they're young. So that when they come in for final training, then Laura can focus on what specific skills they need to know for that particular client and can get them placed out faster. If they haven't been as exposed to as many things, then we're going to have to take more time to do that work plus the skill work as well. So it's a very important job. One of our puppy raisers said they put 3 years of training into 1 year of, you know, and it's not a lot of work. It's, you know, 10-minute training sessions throughout the day. It's not, we must train for an hour and that kind of thing. It's just making them part of your life. We've had several puppy raisers that they're like, we don't have time. Normally we would not have time for a dog, but we can take the dog with us when we go to band practice and games and all this stuff. So yeah, this works because we can take it to work and that kind of thing. Otherwise, a pet dog would probably be sitting home alone a lot. We have short-term fosters that when our puppy raisers go on vacation, they'll take them for very short periods of time, so they're not doing the public work. They're kind of doing dog sitting, evaluating, because sometimes, like kids, when they go to someone else's house, they might try a few things that, oh, well, mom says I can't do it there, but maybe I can get on your couch. Things like that. So just kind of evaluating the dog on how well they're behaving, or a shelter dog that comes in, evaluating the dog for us before it goes on to more training as well. We have volunteers who help with events. I have 2 big ones coming up, graduation and our fetching ball gala that help the day of the event. Always looking for volunteers to help with those things. Planning committees, people with media, that are media savvy are always helpful. Things like that. So there's a lot of different opportunities to help out. Manny has painted and knocked down walls, and hopefully we're done with that part now and no more of that. But little things all around the building happen, you know. They're just talking about shoring up our fencing line and things. Bunnies are getting through, which don't want that. Yeah, they like the bunnies. But no, we stopped the bunnies. Yeah.
You want to talk about your summer social event, the walkathon?
Yeah, we just had our Woofaroo dog walk. Our goal was 50,000, and we made 51.6. Despite it was like 95 that day and horribly hot that one Saturday a couple weeks ago. It was nasty. Thank goodness for online donating. I think there were a lot of virtual walkers that day, but we hit our goal, which was really needed, and that's 2 teams that we're raised funds for. So that was awesome. I mentioned that we have a graduation coming up. It's October 12th. Manny had mentioned, yes, Manny had mentioned we hold tours. I have some tour cards in the back, or you can go on our website. We hold tours once a month. They're exactly an hour, and they're open to the public. Just give us a call and reserve a seat. I know you'll be in Rochester. You won't be there. But basically, you get to get a look at what the facility looks like and things like that, and all the hard brush strokes that Manny did. He did. He was painting the bathrooms. Okay, you got to look at the bathrooms. Yep. But the graduation we hold twice a year, spring and fall. That is Saturday, October 12th, and that's on the little tour cards as well. It's at 1 o'clock. Open to the public. Basically, we show a PowerPoint of the client and the team. They come up on stage. The puppy raiser has had a little reunion with their puppy, and then they get to present them on stage. And we all have tears, and then we have coffee and cake. So it's really, and we have 17 teams this time, so it'll be busy. We have a fetching ball gala that's coming up on November 9th, and that will be at the Crown Plaza in St. Paul, and a creative black tie. And it'll be included with Josh Blue is going to perform, who was on Last Comic Standing. So that'll be fun. And there's some cards back there as well. I'm going to play one more quickie little thing, and then we can talk about public access and those kind of things. see the outtakes on that? It's like they were filming for a really long time. Because one would sit and one would get up, and oh boy, it was just fun. Okay, as far as dogs coming into public places, they do not have to have a vest, although our clients do, because it just is better than a naked dog walking in, because it tends to get more challenged. So basically, our clients also have a card that has a Minnesota access law on it and their name and picture, and that's just for them just to feel a little bit better about it. It's not required by law, that's just something that we supply with them. And it also helps us touch base with our clients as well, because we renew our cards once a year. So they turn in, Gilbert, hey, thank you. They renew the cards once a year, so they turn in a vet report saying, you know, oh, the dog's had all the shots and he's up to date and he's looking good. And then also we have them fill out a thing every year. How's your dog working? Do you need any help? That kind of thing. Just kind of touching base with them, make sure that things are going okay. But like I said, the vest is not required. Usually guide dogs only have a harness. They have no identifying capes on them at all. Basically, any assistance dog in a public place has to be well behaved. If they're barking excessively, if they are jumping on people, if they're lunging, if they're even at food, they have to leave it. No lunging at the popcorn. You know, we actually test them on that at the mall. We have a public access test. They have to walk past the popcorn and things that we that we booby trap. They have to leave it alone. That type of thing. So they have to be well behaved in public and as unobtrusive as possible. Go under the table. You know, no swiping French fries out of the child's hand at the Perkins. All those things. They have to be well behaved. If they're not, that business owner can ask them to leave. If the client is letting go of the leash and letting their dog go walking up to people, and get control of your dog, please. You need to be in control of your dog. So that's, you know, business owners and things, you know, they'd rather err on the side of caution, obviously, than hey, Gilly man, really? He says, I want to do something, just stand here. But they have to be well behaved. If they're not, then they can be asked to leave. If they have an accident, God forbid, they need to go. I'm not an expert on access law. I would highly suggest if people have questions is go to the Minnesota Council of Disability or the ADA laws that are online, American with Disabilities Act. Federal laws trump state laws, so usually the federal laws are what you'd want to look at. But you know, it's good to look. Minnesota's pretty in line with the ADA. There's a few little differences, but about the same. Any questions about that? Yeah.
Manny mentioned there are some places where they are not allowed. I think you mentioned.
Well, some churches don't, and because even though it's a public, there's religion involved and things like that, so some churches don't, and I think for most part we're pretty respectful of that. Otherwise, anywhere that the public are allowed, assistance dogs are allowed as well. So it'd be guide dogs.
That would be more like a disruption type thing from the services.
I guess a good thing to touch on would be what is considered an assistance dog and what is not. Therapy dogs that go to nursing homes, hospitals, things like that are not covered under the ADA. Vest or no, they are not an assistance dog. They don't go by that law. They are usually assigned to a specific place and they have access into that building, but they do not go to restaurants and stores and things like that. That does not extend to that. Obviously, canine units are restricted to where they are going. I'm trying to think. It's so much better when I write it on a wall. Some emotional support dogs. Very careful to look at the ADA with that one. With PTSD is a big thing right now, PTSD dogs. The dogs have to do something for them to alleviate their symptoms or what's happening with them. They have to, they can't just, I bring the dog with me to make me feel better. Does not make them an assistance dog with access rights. If they say, the dog licks my hand or it interacts with me in some way to stop my symptoms that are starting to come forward, or they'll have a command like watch my back. If they start feeling really closed in and whatever their symptoms are, they'll say something like watch my back, which doesn't mean guard them, but it kind of makes them feel better, and the dog assumes a position, that type of thing. So they have to be able to perform an act to alleviate that person's disability. It's not just I'm carrying the dog with me or bringing it with me to make me feel better. A little bit of clarification on that. Again, check with the disability council. Drug, narcotic, canine unit, all those types are not assistance dogs, so would not be allowed in public places unless assigned. What are considered assistance dogs would be guide, hearing, mobility, autism, seizure, hearing, allergy dogs, which are being trained in Colorado, mostly for kids with peanut allergies. They'll kind of detect peanut things for them, for the kids that are seriously have nut allergies. They're trained for that. So those types would be considered, that are actually performing a service for someone with a disability.
Or you said allergies. I wasn't aware of that, but is that like are there any other new areas that you're training for or considering?
We aren't. 5 keep us plenty busy. Not that I've heard of, although we belong to what's called Assistance Dog International. So it's organizations all around the world, which is really a cool convention to go to when you're talking to people from Japan and Australia and everybody's doing the same thing and you're talking back and forth. But that's usually where we learn about new things that are coming up and what we call bitches and brags, the complaining things and the bragging things about what each organization is doing and sharing with everybody, their successes and their failures. We spoke on diabetes assist dogs there. We were amazed that they asked us to come and talk, and we actually did a talk about diabetes and training them, percent training. We also, in May, had a seminar, 3-day seminar, where Claire from England, she came, she does a lot of scent training, especially with cancer, which is an assistance dog training, but she does that. And she came, and then there were several organizations that came from Finland, Toronto, Kansas, all over the US and all over the world. There were about 40 people from different organizations that came and met at Can Do Canines for a 3-day seminar talking about diabetes dog training, what was working for and other organizations, what was not. Some were doing for children. We're not at the child portion right now. We're only working with adults. But that's a whole other range of things that are happening. So that's something to learn about, and might be a next step for us once we're covered with enough staff and dogs to handle what we have now. Might go into the children as well. Yeah.
Kind of different subject, but once the dog is trained and they're with the client, is there supposed to continue the treatment with what they do, or?
He asked, in case, whatever, I haven't heard. He asked, once they're with a client, they're certified, do they still treat? I'm basically treating because I haven't worked with him before, and I just kind of went, hey, let's get out of the kennel and go. So I'm not his regular handler, and this is a little more different setting, so I brought Cheerios as a bribe. Every once in a while treat, but they start backing off on the treats. Laura, who is our in-house trainer, is probably backed off on treats by now with him, so it's an occasional payoff, but not a continual payoff. So it's.
Do they ever forget? I mean, so some of those dogs, there's a whole bunch of things that they do, and if you, as a client, don't need that service for a year,
they have to practice.
Get how to do it?
Yep.
You guys retrain them?
Basically, if they're needing a dog, we're assuming they're going to need that service. If they don't need that service for a year, then they probably should not have gotten the dog.
Just one particular.
They would practice with hearing.
Things, helping with the laundry, hitting the paddle, opening the door. Well, if I don't go out for a month and go through a door with the paddle, then the dog can get how to do that.
No, probably not within a month. One of the things that probably a good example of that would be the smoke alarm with the hearing assist dogs, because you're not going to be setting that off. But we have a smoke alarms that we have a volunteer make with it's a remote control kind of thing. He flips the switch and it goes off, so that the clients can practice that, and we ask them to practice that once a month, so that does stay in the dog's head. Because if you don't use that particular skill and 6 months goes by, don't expect the dog to be spot on, because you've slacked off on that training. So, especially with the hearing and the smoke alarm, because that's so important, we do stress that the clients practice that, just kind of as a refresher. And then also a reminder that when that sound goes off, we go out together. There was a horrid story with Pause with a Cause, sad story, where the dog alerted the person headed out, the dog turned around, because he didn't have control of the dog, went looking for the mom, who was at work. And he died in the fire. So that's a really big thing with us, is that they go out together, the leash goes on, and oof, you know, so it's a good practice for them as well. Because if there's really a fire, you're kind of scared and not thinking straight. So it's a good practice for them. But yes, practice all of the things that they need, whether they use it regularly or not, is practice. Keep them going, you know, keep them fresh on what they need to do.
I think we need to wrap this up, but I want to thank Laurie very much. I mean, I just learn new things every time. So, is there any other last question here?
Yeah.
Otherwise, oh, go ahead.
I assume if somebody's interested, they can just go to the website or...
Yep, go to our website, which is www.can-do-canines.org, and check us out. Always needing volunteers and help, and if you have anybody that you think might benefit from an assistance dog, you can always call the office. Jessie Heemer is our admin person for the application process, and she's very helpful. So.
Yeah, talked about
Come to a tour, you can always come to a tour or a graduation and check us out that way. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yay! It's up and ready.